Imagine it's January 1996. You're 32 years old and you have $1,000 in your bank account. What would you do? How would you invest it? Well, what if you were Jeff Bezos? Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at how Jeff Bezos became who he is today, and then we're going to put ourselves in his shoes. It's gonna be a fun one. Let's get into it. Now, this isn't the first time I've done something like this. If you haven't seen my other videos where I play with different characters and situations, you should check them out. I'll link them below. Alright, here we go. So you're Jeff Bezos. You're 32 years old. You work at a hedge fund making a good salary and you have $1,000 sitting in your bank account. For fun, you decide to see what you can do with that money if you were starting over in 2025. If you know anything about Jeff Bezos, you know that before founding Amazon, he worked at a hedge fund called Fidelity Investments, eventually becoming the youngest vice president in company history. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. In fact, it was quite the opposite. When Jeff was at Princeton, he actually wrote his senior thesis on the failings of investor Warren Buffett. So what changed? Well, two things happened when Jeff was in his early career that really shifted his perspective. Number one, he had an amazing mentor, and number two, he got first-hand experience with a failed business. The mentor I'm talking about is actually a former chairman of Fidelity Investments named Ned Johnson. Ned took young Jeff under his wing and taught him a lot about investing, specifically about behavioral economics, which is basically about understanding how emotions affect decision-making in investing. Although they had their differences, it's widely agreed that Ned served as a major influence for Jeff and kind of helped pave the way for his success. The other thing I mentioned was experience with a failed business. In 1986, Jeff left his job at a prestigious Wall Street firm to become the director of marketing and co-owner of a startup tech company called FBA Group, which was founded by one of Jeff's college buddies. A year later, however, the company went bankrupt, leaving Jeff with a massive amount of debt. Now, I don't think there's any surprise that this event inspired Jeff to start his own business. He learned firsthand how tough it was to be an entrepreneur, and he vowed never to do that again. But it did teach him some valuable lessons about finances, risk management, and operating a business. So now that we have a better idea of what was going on in Jeff's mind at age 32, let's talk about what he would do with $1,000 if he were starting over today. Here's what I think he would do based on his personality and his experiences. Number one, he would put $100 in a high-yield savings account at an online bank like Ally Bank, SoFi, or Wealthfront. Jeff is not a gambler and he doesn't like unnecessary risks. So I don't think he'd ever use his money for risky investments or random side hustles. Instead, he'd probably want to put most of his $1,000 in a place that was safe but also earning some sort of interest. Number two, he would buy a book on investing, maybe even go to the library. Early on in his career, Jeff was really passionate about reading books and learning from people who had more knowledge than him. And I think he'd still continue to do that. Number three, he would meet with several successful entrepreneurs and pick their brains. Jeff has always been really good at building relationships and getting people to trust him. Even when he was a kid, he was able to manipulate his classmates into giving him their lunch money because he knew exactly what to say. He would ask people questions about their business and try to understand how it works. Number four, he would spend some time thinking deeply by himself. One of the biggest reasons Jeff has been so successful is because he is great at thinking big picture. He's able to step back and think about things from a 10,000-foot view. So with his remaining money, he'd probably set aside some time to think about what problems exist in the world and how he could potentially solve them. Number five, he would take some money and invest it in a new computer. One of the first businesses Jeff worked at was an IT company. So I think he understands the value of having good equipment. Number six, he would use the rest of the money to launch a basic website. While he was working at D. Shaw, Jeff recognized the potential of the internet and decided to use it as a way to connect book buyers and sellers. That's ultimately how Amazon started. So that's what I think Jeff Bezos would do with $1,000 if he were starting over today. Let me know what you think. How would you use it? Comment below. I want to talk about what you would do with your very own $1,000. We're just coming off tax season, and I know that might sound like the last thing you want to hear right now, but bear with me here. As soon as tax season ends, everyone wants to talk about how much money they owe, and it can make all of us feel like we're in debt. But what if instead we flipped the switch in our minds and said, hey, the IRS just gave me a giant pile of cash to do whatever I want with it? What would I do? How would I invest it? How could I grow it? Suddenly our whole perspective changes, right? Because as weird as it sounds, sometimes it's easier to think about growing money when we aren't attached to it emotionally. The key is to find ways to earn more money without increasing your income. And that's why I love these types of thought experiments. They force us to evaluate our habits, spending, and saving behaviors and biases. And then once we understand those things, we can develop strategies to improve them. I'm curious, how would you invest $1,000? Would you follow in Jeff's footsteps and open a website, or would you buy stocks or put it in a savings account? Leave a comment below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So earlier I asked you what you would do with your money, but now I want to flip it around and ask you for some money. More specifically, I want you to give me some money. And I know it sounds weird, but stick with me here. There's a book that I read recently called The Almanac by Naval Ravikant, which I highly recommend, by the way. And in the book, he talks about this idea that billionaires live frugal lifestyles. And often won't pay for small things themselves, but will happily pay top dollar for things that save them time. He calls it buying your time back. And so I challenge you to do that with 3 minutes of your day. Literally just 3 minutes. I want you to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell notification button. And here's why. First, it's free. Second, I only produce content that I would want to be sent to me. And you'll get access to some of the best stories and information that I come across each week. Third, by subscribing, you're helping me buy back my time. YouTube uses subscription numbers to determine how long a video gets to play on the platform. And frankly, I'm greedy and want my videos to be seen by as many people as possible. So help me be selfish and subscribe to the channel. On that note, this has been the channel. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and please don't forget to subscribe.